Hi, we're back, and this is great time for Unit 10, Part 2. And in this Part 2, we're going to talk a little bit about grammar. The past perfect continuous. Wow, what a big name. So let's take a look at the definition of the past perfect continuous, okay? So, the past perfect continuous. So we use the past perfect continuous to talk about ongoing actions. So when you say ongoing, it's something that has a continuation that began before another action in the past. So here we're not talking about the present time. We're talking about two actions in the past. And the past perfect continuous was a continuous action that went up to another action in the past. Okay, we're going to see the example. So the past perfect continuous is formed by had or hadn't, been, and the verb with ing. For example, when I finished the race, I was exhausted because I had been running for more than 2 hours. So these are two actions in the past. I had been running for 2 hours, then I finished the race and I was really tired. So I had been doing something, I was in a continuous action until the race was over, until I finished the race. Well, he couldn't answer the teacher's question because he hadn't been listening. So he was not listening. He was there not listening, and then the teacher asked him a question and he couldn't answer because he hadn't been listening. Let's take a look at this timeline, which makes it clearer for you to understand. So here's it. I had been waiting for hours when finally the bus arrived. So here is the present, and here's it's me. I was there, waiting, and the bus arrived. So let's imagine that I arrived at the bus stop at 2 o'clock, 2 p.m., and then the bus only arrived at 4 p.m. So I waited for 2 hours until the bus arrived. So I can say that I had been waiting for 2 hours when finally the bus arrived. So the two actions are in the past. Yeah, the action of the bus arriving and the action of me waiting for hours. Okay? Take a look at here. Take a look at this other example. So we also use the past perfect continuous to express an activity in progress, close in time to another activity or time in the past. So it hasn't to do with now. It has to do with two actions in the past. So here we have action 1. The child was eating a cake. Look at the child here. And we have action 2. He had chocolate all over his mouth. What happened first? He had chocolate all over his mouth, or he was eating a cake? Of course, number 1, he was eating a cake, happened first. And he had chocolate all over his mouth, happened after that. So I can say that the child had chocolate all over his mouth because he had been eating a cake. So he was eating a cake, eating a cake, cake. Here, he had chocolate all over his mouth. Okay? Really, really good. Another one. It's used to emphasize the duration of an action that was completed before another action or event in the past. So this is to emphasize the duration. So had been driving when she found the right office. You can say that she had been driving around the city for 3 hours before she finally found the right office. So it was the duration of this action that she had been doing until another action or before another action or event in the past. Okay? So we have to bear in mind that the past perfect continuous emphasizes a continuous action, something that was going on, okay? Emphasizes the duration of an action. All right? Now let's take a look at our book. So in our book we have complete the sentences from the article on page 93. Remember the article about the Bitcoins? Yeah, that guy that he was an unlucky person because he didn't know that his Bitcoins were going to be valuable after a long time, and he lost all of them in a flash drive. Okay, so his free time working on their house. How can I complete using the past perfect continuous? Remember, the past perfect continuous. In the past perfect continuous, you have to use had or hadn't plus been plus the verb with ing. So he had been spending his free time working on their house. And the value of Bitcoins had been going rapidly. So had been going. Go up, had been going up. I forgot up here. Had been going up rapidly. And he had been spending his free time working on their house. Okay? So what's the rule here? We use the past perfect continuous to talk about a continuous actions or single actions. Yeah, continuous actions that began before or at the same time as a specific time in the past. So this continuous action happened before another specific time in the past or at the same time? Before. So it happens before a specific time in the past. Okay? So let's take a look at these sentences here. And we have to complete them with the past perfect continuous using the verbs in parentheses. So Martha was tired. Why was she tired? Because all day without a break. So she had been working all day without a break. That's why she was tired. So it was a continuous action that at the end of the day made her tired. Or made, yes. Number 2, they spend money as if they were millionaires, and now they were broke. So what had they been doing? They had been spending money as if they were millionaires, and now they were broke. Okay? What about number 3? His eyes were red and he looked sad. Wow, so his eyes were red, past, and he looked sad. I thought he had been crying. Okay, something that he had been doing, a continuous action, when I noticed that his eyes were red and he looked sad. Number 4, I think about her for the past 2 days. Why hadn't she called me? So what had I been doing? I had been thinking about her for the past 2 days. Okay, that's why hadn't she called me. Jim was hungry. He walked in the mountains for 5 hours without any food. So what was the continuous action? He had been walking in the mountains for 5 hours without any food. That's why he was hungry. Okay? And finally, I woke up and looked at the clock. What? I had been sleeping for 10 hours. So that was a continuous action. I started, for example, at 9 o'clock on the previous night, and I was sleeping. And then when I woke up, oh my God, I had been sleeping for 10 hours. Okay, so now we are going to do activity number 3. This is the last one for this topic. Let's try to choose the best option to complete the text. Okay, so we have to notice if the action is a continuous action in the past, then we use the present perfect continuous with had, okay? And if it's not, we don't use it. Let's take a look at the story. Sally was cold, dirty, and tired. So this is something that is referring to the past. Okay, she was cold, dirty, and tired. Why was she like that? Because it was a continuous action in the past. She had been looking for the computer for more than 10 hours. But so far, she'd found nothing. Number 2, is it a continuous action in the past? It was getting dark for the last hour, and soon the daylight would be gone. So it is a continuous action in the past. So it's the present perfect continuous. It had been getting darker for the last hour, and soon the daylight would be gone. She was getting hungry, not hungry. She was getting hungry now too. She was getting hungry, or she had been getting hungry? No, this is a specific action in the past, not a continuous action. So she was getting hungry now too. All day she had been dreaming of finding the computer. So something that she was doing continuously, she had been doing. So all day she had been dreaming of finding the computer and was making plans or had been making plans. In this case, we can use both, okay? Because it could be a specific activity, a specific action in the past, but she had been dreaming of finding the computer, and also she had been making plans all day for how she wanted to spend the money. Okay, so this here can be both. Those dreams were or had been over now. Is this a continuous action in the past or a specific action in the past? This is a specific action. Those dreams were over. They were finished. She needed to be back at work tomorrow. The treasure hunt was over. She looked out over the trash heap. It was huge. Was she or had she been looking in the wrong place all of those hours? Is this a continuous action that she was continuously doing, or a specific action? Yes, this was a continuous action. Had she been looking in the wrong place for all those hours? As she had been walking over the garbage back to her car, is this a continuous action or a specific action? It was a specific action. She was walking over the garbage back to her car. She saw something silver. It was, or it had been catching the fading light of the sun. Is this a continuous? No, it's not a continuous. It was specific action. It was catching the fading light of the sun. She bent down to take a closer look. Well, this activity is not that easy, okay? You have to understand the context and see and analyze if it was something that was an ongoing action in the past up to another action, or it was a specific action in the past. Once you decide which one it is, you are going to circle had been or the past. Okay? I hope you could do it. And now we can do some extra activities in your workbook related to that. See you in the next class. Bye-bye.